redefining the definition of great leaders. His book is called Believership, The Superpower Beyond Leadership. He is the visionary behind Human First Club, a forum devoted to the share of human thought. It is my great pleasure to introduce MJ Vacanti today. Mike, how are you? Welcome to Power of the Tribe.
Thank you, Maureen. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm doing really well.
All right, good. So, Mike, the whole summit is a celebration of inspirational leaders, which you absolutely walk, and your life is an inspiration, and how you keep having others find their voice. So, what is your secret to living life to the fullest with connection and absolutely some zest?
I love that question. It's been interesting, Marina, because it's an experiential journey, right? And I think at varying degrees, I've probably been successful or challenged in those areas as I've gone through, different steps or different paths along that journey. Recently, in the last few years, it really is being able to stay disciplined in living from the inside out, more aware of being able to create the circumstances I would like to be in, rather than always responding to the circumstances from the outside. That has been a big shift for me.
And so then with that, is it an ongoing effort?
Yes, I believe that seeking growth as a constant state brings enjoyment to the process of change, where oftentimes I think we're taught and learned that change is something we resist. I often hear people say change is really hard. And I wonder if that's a belief that they have because of their experiences, or if it's a belief that was taught to them. Because when I look at growth, and it's a continuous journey, and the older I get or the more experiences I have, my capacity to learn actually increases with all those different experiences. So I think it's a lot of a mindset that if growth is a positive thing, then change is a gift that we get to experience along that journey.
I love that. And I love that there's a hint to the sense of freedom that also then provides.
Yeah, the conflict is in the resistance, right? And sometimes we find ourselves in those valleys rather than the peaks, or we find ourselves in challenge and adversity, which then we need that strength. And so our choices in those times need to reflect, how to continue to move forward. But then our choice in the good times is to really accelerate through those good times. And so I think the freedom is always in the choice we have, and our mindset going in, I think, gives us the strength to endure and continue forward.
So we had spoken earlier, and you just by who you are were able to shift without any exact outside influence. What was that? Was there a mistake? Was there just some life moment that allowed you to shift on this new journey and path that you've been on?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very fair question, and I think certainly the answer is yes for me. I think in people that I get a chance to visit with often, those of us that are willing to own our mistakes, I think that's really important. I certainly have had missteps. I've had some bad choices that have to be reconciled. and dealt with. But in the end, those are learning opportunities. And I think they inform my beliefs, which direct my behaviors and then my actions outside. So when I've made mistakes, I think I get to that outer realm of being in action mode without really tying it back to what are the behaviors behind that action and what are the core beliefs behind those behaviors. And I reached an inflection point about 3.5 years ago. I had finished one of the 5 mergers and acquisitions that I had been through, kind of large publicly traded companies, and I loved kind of that chaos. I loved being in the tornado. It's where my skills came out, and I actually felt kind of calm in that pressure. But when that last one came to an end, I wasn't sure what my next step would be. And I needed to go through a period of discovery to really find out what this next season for me could look like. And there was turmoil in that. I hadn't been really open to feedback in the past, and I actively sought through a coach to go out and gather that feedback, to understand how others experienced me during those times when we were together. And then just have the willingness to sit in that for a little while and be open to how others experienced me, how I was perceived, rather than, what I saw in the mirror, or trying to understand the things that I couldn't see, right? I can only see from me. I can't see to me. And that was, I'm well experienced, and later in life when I became open to that, and it did set my path forward. It's where believership really landed for me, because it was the understanding from other people's perspective of those times together, and kind of dialing everything back to the core of what are the beliefs that I want to step forward with. So I think I created some challenges and difficulty for myself in that transition, and that was kind of the first rule I came to, is stop self-sabotaging. Don't live in the conflict of those beliefs. Really take the time to understand them and come to peace with that. And then have a plan, and then smile. That was kind of the 1, 2, 3 step, is stop self-sabotaging, have a plan. And smiling, Maureen, was just find your gratitude every day. And for me, that in itself helped energize that shift.
I love that. And the one thing I think is interesting too, when you talk about having the mirrors of others be shown so you could see yourself in feedback. The one piece of feedback, and people, that's the first step. I think people have such a hard time with feedback, is that it can also be neutral. And if you take it from a place of neutrality and then you just use that information, that's again just a relief,
Yeah. You say that, and what comes to mind for me is trying to imagine that feedback when somebody would ask, so what was the experience working for Mike during that time? And if feedback would have come back and said, it was fine.
What do you do with that?
Right? What would we do with that? But what's funny about that, Maureen, is when we ask people about their experiences at work and the workplace right now, how is that going? How is it working for that company, working with that team, that person? So many of the people we talk to will kind of just shrug like that and say, it's fine. It's not fulfilling. It's, it is neutral. It's almost like it's a benign experience. And that, I believe, we can change. We can do better than that.
People start to feel again.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And invite that in. And what is also interesting is in working with other leaders and going in and working inside companies with teams and putting workshops and programs together is understanding how people are responding to that leader's masks that they're putting on. And then when we're able to get through that, they start to talk about the real experience of the person. And they're different things. They would look and say, well, yes, that person performing in the role, kind of as an authority, or, it's very prescriptive in how they would look at it. But when you get to what's it like being engaged with that human being on a different level, the answers are different oftentimes. And I think that is very revealing, that we kind of put on this armor, these shields, these masks, and we ask people to interact with that. And I think we're missing the great beauty of our humanity when we do that.
So speaking of humanity, tell us all about the Humans First Club.
Yeah, it started really as an experiment. What happens if we didn't do the typical business event and conference, and just as a learning opportunity, pulled people together in rooms and asked them, what's it like out there? What is your experience in the workplace? What challenges are you having? What things are exciting you? What's working and not working? And so we, in 11 different cities now, over this past 13 months, we have brought different groups of speakers into different communities around the country and in London. So 10 US sites and London. And we infuse different topics at the beginning and then open it up to conversation. And we inspire people to share. And what's happened is it's created this safe environment for people to very openly share. And the rich dialogue that takes place from person to person, not just the facilitators or the speakers, but within the group, the connectedness that happens. It's really been a fascinating experience for me, to learn, to feel. And that is what's come out, Maureen, is people are willing to open up and share what's really going on, how they're feeling. And there's been a lot of emotion. There's been a lot of hugging. There's excitement. There's tears. There's challenge and support. And through that, offshoots have happened. Communities are being built. Relationships are taking place. And it's really going to expand into this next year. There's plans in place. I won't get into that. I sometimes prefer talking about things after the fact, kind of explaining what happened rather than what's projected. But it's growing bigger. There's more events happening. There's different experiments with groups taking place, and it's become a very engaged community. It started as an experiment. We did a lot of learning. I went into it saying yes to everything, and then we'll figure it out. So if somebody said, I want to do that in my city, the answer is yes. Let's figure it out, and that will continue. But it's really started to bring forward the hunger that people have for change in their environments. And that's the most exciting thing, is the hope that's rising from all these voices together. And there are hundreds of them and thousands in conversation. So it's becoming global, it's expanding, and it feels very energized.
So and I know that things, particularly the human factor, should never just be stuck in a box. but in a simplistic way, is it that people get to be their authentic selves is the gift and lesson that comes out of this, and that is actually our strengths together?
Yeah, I love that. It is allowing our strengths to show through. And I think that initiating it without the scoring, without the prescriptive authority that starts, here are the things you're going to learn today, and you're going to be tested on the 3 takeaways, and you're going to have to go explain them to somebody. You actually just get to show up and be there and follow however you're compelled to interact or respond. If you're in a sharing mode, you get to do that. If you're in a listening mode, you get to do that. And it just allows that real connectedness to happen because we're taking all the nuance out of it, or we're allowing the true emotion to come through. And there isn't any right or wrong because we're exploring. There isn't any tasks or instructions. You just get to be you there, be you, and participate how you feel that day.
And so the whole, it just seems so simple, but
It is.
The social media piece with people are being so disconnected that a forum that brings people together to just be is actually innovative.
Surprisingly innovative. And I say that, Maureen, because early on, and I think still I get some of it, but it's much less. But early on, it was constant people reaching out to me and saying, "What are you doing? This doesn't make sense. That's not the way to do it, Mike." And I'm thinking, I've been doing stuff for a very long time, and I've been in big environments, and I have a good sense of how business works. So I realized this is not one of those things, but it's intentionally not one of those things because it was put together to do something very different. That's why I called it an experiment. I wasn't going out to do the best and have the best 3-hour conference that was possible because I could choose that same thing every day of the week. Everybody's doing the same thing. And the results are the same, which is we're struggling from a mental and physical fitness. I'll say health issue, but I like calling it fitness because there's room to improve. We can become more mentally fit. We can become more physically fit, but there's health challenges out there and they are being exacerbated by the conditions we're creating at work and in our communities and even in our universities. And the research behind that is significant and could be discouraging unless we change our mind and say, if we go do something different, we can then potentially point to different results. So how about if we just try something different? Because what we're doing very, very well seems to be causing more of the problem, not solving the problem. So as I say in my book, and I say often when I'm out working with groups, is what we stop doing is much more important than what we do next.
That's amazing. That that we get to have you open that is a real gift. Thank you. Okay, so 2020, new decade. Just give us a little heads up where what you're going to be up to.
What's really exciting to me, Maureen, is that we're coming into a time of more rapid and more significant change than any other time in history. Things are going to be coming from the outside, whether it's technology or disruptive business structures, new ventures. new challenges. And what I love about that is the opportunity to start to prepare for that and letting go of some of the past that we continue to drag forward, thinking that we need control, which is an illusion. We need structure, which doesn't seem to be serving us well. And so I think we're coming into this realm of possibilities that really excites me. And I look at this next decade as being a time of change and growth and excitement. And I just expressed earlier that I kind of like being in a tornado. So it feels good to me, but we have the opportunity to help people find their navigation and become navigators in this change. We're not sitting on a still pond anymore like we were, where change would happen over a long period of time. Something might shift in a couple of decades. We don't have that luxury anymore. We're navigating a rapid river, not canoeing around a still pond. And so that opportunity to rethink and reinvent and empower people to step into their true nature, I think is a welcome opportunity. And I'm hoping to do that. So the Humans First Club will be one of my focuses, and that's expanding. So that will keep me occupied. And then with Believership, the book and the programs around the book being out there and active now, that's the second focal point. And Humans First is not a business. It's a community. It's a platform for everybody to come to, and it specifically has no business objective to it. There is no financial transaction available inside the Humans First Club, and that's very intentional. And so the teaching and speaking and workshops that I'll get to do through Believership inside companies is more of the commercial arm for me. Having those be intertwined but separate is just really exciting that I get to go explore that this year.
I'm excited, and again, you shifted and you're doing it in a innovative and different way. Things that we usually had taken for granted, just being able to communicate, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this unfolds.
Thank you. I'm hoping, Maureen, that we can all really start to embrace that when we empower people with choice rather than burden them with command, we'll start to do better for everybody and be able to lift each other up. And what you're doing with this summit and these conversations is part of that, lifting others to the surface. And when we get there, we have the responsibility to bring others along. And I commend you for that energy and your vision on that. And I'm really, really thankful to be a part of it.
Good, and we're really glad to have you here, and we get to continue, and that's the fun part too. Okay, Happy New Year. I'll see you when you touch down in San Diego, and so we will be at the end of the summit. I will be taking my women on a year-long journey, and it's again the Power of the Tribe. Welcome Home 220. And we're going to be doing a lot of virtual connecting, having a lot of fun. We'll come back and play in the house one of these days when we're doing one of our maybe movie night, maybe a book reading, as we all will then, something like that, or open a dialogue.
I would love to play. I would love to participate however I can, Maureen. This is
good.
Wonderful.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to staying connected. And thank you for sharing with my tribe.
Very excited.
Take care.